is it ever right? Is it ever proper? Is it ever acceptable? Is it ever obligatory to deny an individual right? Okay.
Yes.
And I'll let you just take a shot at that.
I do. Well, I think that everyone is born with their rights, but they can also forfeit their rights by violating other people's rights. It's sort of a clause that the earliest I can think of it being mentioned is in the Bible, where God talks about how important life is and how valuable it is, to the point where it's so valuable. This is in Genesis, by the way, before the Ten Commandments. He effectively says, because life is so valuable, if you shed man's blood, you deserve to lose your life.
Right, basically. But I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about that.
It's a similar thing. In the same way, rights are so valuable.
No, I don't want to talk about. I don't want to talk about anything theological. I want to have this conversation politically grounded. Let's not talk about God and the Bible and the religion.
I was just using it as an example.
Let's use a better example. A better example is slavery. Okay?
Why do you even ask me?
Here's a better example. All right. Well, because it's not a good example what you used.
Excuse me. Okay.
All right.
Tell me your better example.
No, better example is slavery. Okay. So the Constitution says that we have inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The word pursuit is in there for a reason. It's not referring to God or the Bible or Genesis or anything like that. It's there for a reason. Okay? That's why it's there. So, but what does pursuit mean?
So is the Bible, but I won't get into that because it offends you.
What does pursuit really mean? If I'm happy by pursuing slavery, is that a protected right? So there are people who are trying to lay that trap in conversation. And they're trying to suggest that there's something wrong with the Constitution. It needs something outside of it to justify it, probably a Bible or some holy book of some kind. But I disagree with that. I don't think that's the case. The reason why that argument fails is because the Constitution enumerates the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Pursuit of happiness. It doesn't guarantee outcomes. So if in other words, we can argue about whether or not slavery is right or wrong, good or bad, morally right or wrong, and we can come to a conclusion after slavery has been tried that it's morally reprehensible. But it's the right. There's no such thing as a right to own slaves, because that violates a prior principle of each human being has a right. Now, the early founders got around that by defining slaves as non-human, non-persons. Mm-hmm. That's how this controversy has got going.
Yeah, with the 3/5 clause, right. Which technically was a compromise by the North, because they knew that slave owners, if slaves counted as full human beings, legally speaking, but they couldn't vote, then it kind of screws them over. So I want to ask you something, though. You talked about the Constitution being the basis for rights, but there's two things to point out. That's only in America, and the Constitution is only a piece of paper. Now, Jefferson points this out, that there are certain inalienable rights that people have endowed by their Creator. So God is a part of the Constitution. That's what gives it some real authority. It's a little silly, like the Constitution gives itself the authority.
If you read the exact words, endowed fundamental rights of nature, endowed by nature, and nature's God. That's the way it reads. That's the way it reads. Nature's God.
Okay? Endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights.
No. Let's go and get it. Let's go and get it.
Okay. I figured it's a constitutional scholar such as yourself would be able to understand. Oh, look at that. I have a pocket constitution right here.
Okay, read it. The Declaration of Independence. Read it.
The Declaration of Independence. That's what we're reading now.
Yes, yes.
I have it here.
We hold these truths to be self-evident.
All men are created equal.
All men are created equal.
And endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights.
Right.
Okay, well, I can show you the preamble. That's fun.
No, but that's the section.
Among those rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Yeah, look at that. I don't really see any little mention of nature in the preamble there.
If you keep reading, you would see it.
Okay, eventually. It's deep. But in any case, that's what's front line. That's
because they were deists. They wanted to separate religion from political rights. Okay, and the way to do that is to say that there's a creator that creates the universe where these rights exist, but these rights arise naturally. And the word inalienable means you could not get rid of these rights even if you wanted to, even if you tried to. You cannot renounce these rights: life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Okay?
You can renounce the right to life. It's called suicide. You can renounce, you can totally enslave yourself. I mean, that's the thing but the authority, though, the authority behind those rights, the question is it a piece of paper, the Constitution, or is it some authority beyond what humans can vote on or debate on?
It's a conceptual model written on a piece of paper, and that conceptual model describes the structure of reality, truth, goodness, and beauty, as seen by the Enlightenment philosophers of John Locke and David Hume and Rousseau, Jean-Jacques Rousseau. These are the main, and it's also predicated on the thinking of Thomas Jefferson, who imbibed all that philosophical Enlightenment discussion. Also, Benjamin Franklin, who was a personal friend of David Hume, and James Madison. So Madison, Jefferson, May. These are people that interpreted the conceptual model. The other thing that people miss out on is this. No one is claiming that the Constitution is a perfect document, because humans wrote it, and humans are imperfect by definition. All right?
So let's drill down even further then. Do you believe that the expression of individual rights is imperfect as well?
Yes.
So if they are imperfect, there is a sort of Platonic theoretical perfect vision of human rights that I'm sure the founding fathers would have liked to envision, and that's what they were pursuing.
Well, yeah, if we back all the way up to Plato, then there is a Platonic essence of human rights, an ideal Platonic form.
Wait. A Platonic idea,
form.
Yeah, a Platonic form,
right,
is already a concept.
Right.
Is already but individual rights are also a concept.
It's a concept that no imperfect human being is ever capable of apprehending or comprehending.
No. I'm saying, can a Platonic form be applied to, which is a concept, be applied to another concept, namely individual rights? Is that possible?
Sure.
You're a philosopher.
Yeah, of course.
Really?
Yeah.
So we can describe, say, any idea is in a Platonic form in a way that'll work.
Well, we can talk about it as being a form, but because we're human beings, we're never going to know that form in and of itself. We're never going to know the nature of the form itself. For instance, let's take the form of a triangle. A squared plus B squared equals C squared, the Pythagorean theorem, okay? That would be true if there were no triangles, and that would also still be true if there were no one to think about triangles. A squared plus B squared would still equal C squared, and that's the best proof for Platonic forms.
Okay, there you go. So, but getting back to our conversation on natural rights, though,
right?
There's the initial question, which everyone needs to ask, is how do we know about these rights? Why do we debate them? Under what premises do you agree on and I agree on, and we debate them?
Okay, now you're talking about the civic role of both philosophy and religion. This is where God enters stage right, okay? Which is where you wanted to start with. But I wanted to get back to that through this route, because I think it's more intelligible. So now God does enter
to a secular audience.
Right. Well, God enters stage right by providing the notion of sin, and the notion of redemption, and the notion of salvation, and the notion of human perfection. And also, stage left enter the philosophers. So the philosophers and the theologians, they come onto center stage, and they start spewing out their ideas for the hoi polloi, the common people, to absorb. There's an expression that the theology and the philosophy of last century are this century's politics. And it's a pretty reliable yardstick. If you look at history, why is Marxism so prevalent culturally here and around the world? Because it was last century's number one philosophical movement. Prior to that, it was Christianity for almost 2,000 years. Okay? So there's something to realize that most farmers and software coders in Google, people who work for a living trimming trees and scraping up bodies off of freeways, they don't have time to be philosophers or theologians. They rely upon philosophers and theologians to give a conceptual framework for us to live in.
Yes, they rely on the Plato Search and Rescue team.
I have the sweatshirt.
Yeah, you have the DVD and the VHS tape. Yeah, I'm sure you do.
I have the coffee cup. What I need now is a drink. So anyway, that was a good discussion. I like that one.
I had fun too. And you know what? We'll have even more fun to have more partners come on board. Folks, we really appreciate you becoming a Patreon with us, a partner with us, for just $10 a month. But we'd appreciate more.
Or $5, or even $5, even $1.
Calm down. I'm putting my Armenian foot
You're
down.
Armenian. Okay. I'm Irish Catholic.
For $10 a month, you can have full access to Mark McIntyre's book on logic and philosophy.
Yep. Reason, argue, refute, how to think about anything.
You can even beat him in arguments. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, you do it all the time. Yeah.